Nagato. Got no father like I'm Naruto. Keep the blade on me, Ichigo. Who really wanna go toe for toe? GTR from Tokyo. Diamonds whipping up on the stove. Lucky man like a 4-leaf clove. Diamonds wanna go.
Hello everyone, this is Nagato's Adventure. Hope you guys are having an awesome day for today. In today's video, I'm going to be showcasing on how to install Han on any PlayStation 3 on firmware 4.84. And this will be a web series or a little mini series I'm doing on my channel. And this is episode 1. For episode 2, y'all guys should watch out for that. Once I create that video, is going to be on how to install Hen. And then I'm going to be showcasing on episode 3 on how to install games on Hen and also Han, you know, that sort of thing for this exploit. I do want to just state some things and prerequisites, so I do recommend watching this whole intro before you skip to any parts, since there's a lot of things to cover over and there's some things that I should specify. But with all that fun stuff getting out the way, if you guys could please be sure to follow my social media so you know the latest hacking guides and tutorials for my channel. And as well, if you do want to join my official Discord, or you need any help in terms of setting this up, or you have any questions in terms of modding the Vita, PS4, PS3, you could go ahead and join my official Discord. I will have the link in the description below for you guys to join, or you could just type in the URL bar or basically the URL link, and type that in your URL bar if you're using Chrome or Firefox or whatever web browser of your choice. If you do want to support my channel and want to support my videos and much more of that, you can feel free to donate via my PayPal. I will have the link in the description below. Any of the money that I may receive from y'all guys will go straight back into my channel, will help me buy better things such as a camera, a better microphone, even consoles, so I could showcase on how to hack them on my channel. But with all that fun stuff getting stated out the way, we could go ahead and get started on the prerequisites for what you need for this video. And anything and any items that I state will be in the description below for my downloads. So first things first, you need any PlayStation 3 system. So it doesn't matter if you have a fat, slim, or super slim. It doesn't matter what motherboard variant, what year it was manufactured. As long as you have any PlayStation 3, you could do this, which is primarily why this exploit is so desirable, since unlike CFW, at one point you needed either a fat or slim, or it's certain slims, and then your system needed to be either downgraded or with an E3 flasher, or your system needed to be on 3.55 and then to upgrade to the latest custom firmware. But of course you need to be on 4.84 or lower. So if 4.85 released as of today, since 4.84 as of right now is the highest firmware for PS3, make sure you stay lower than 4.84 to do this firmware. If you're on 4.82 or 4.84, just go ahead and upgrade to the latest version firmware. Either you could do that with a USB stick if you're on 4.82, but go ahead and make sure your guys are all on 4.84 for this process. You also need to have a PlayStation Network account, aka you need PSN Access. So of course, if your console is banned, you can't access PSN, so make sure you could just sign in to PSN. Of course, you need a PC to download any of the files I state for this video. Optional, but I do highly recommend this, is a second PSN account, because we're going to be activating our PS3, or basically our PSN account, and if this method could get you banned in the process of doing this, that's why I do recommend people to use a secondary PSN account, which I will be using for this video. I won't be using my main PSN account. I just made a random one like not too long ago, so I'll be using that as well. You need a USB stick that is formatted to FAT32, so you can't have a USB stick that is formatted to NTFS or exFAT. You need to have it on FAT32, and in this video I'll showcase on how to do that. Some things I want to state before this process is just some disclaimers. So Han is not custom firmware, aka as known as CFW. So there's only a limited of stuff you could do. So there's only limited homebrew, and you can only basically play PS3, PS2, and PlayStation 1 titles. So for example, you can't run just with Han alone, you can't run RetroArch or any CC API and do RTM mods and stuff like that. You have to be on CFW. That's why CFW I still prefer over Han and stuff like that. But for the general public that may not want to buy another PlayStation 3 and they may have a SUPERSLIM, for example. Han and Hen is for you. That's why I am doing this showcase for this series. As well, your firmware needs to be on 4.84 or lower, which I stated earlier in the video. As well, this method does work with any PS3, as I stated as well earlier, so it doesn't matter if it's fat, slim, or super slim. Another disclaimer that I want to get into as well: in this video you're going to get two files, or basically we're going to get two files, called our IDPS and also our act.dat. So make sure you keep them safe in hand on your PC or have it backed up, since those two files are basically the main key files that will allow you into this video on how to reassign games and stuff like that. And basically those are the two files that are specifically for your console. So someone else's IDPS and also your act.dat, or basically the activation file, is going to be different from yours, since it's basically it's for per console. So for example, in my video, my IDPS, aka my console ID, will be totally different from yours. So make sure as I go throughout the video that you keep them safe, and I'll probably reiterate it out of the intro. Another disclaimer I do want to get out of before anything: I am not responsible for any accounts getting banned. If you follow this guide, you understand that there is a risk of signing in to PlayStation Network with Han, and this goes with for the Hen method as well, which I'll be showcasing in episode 2. By doing this process, you do understand that there is a risk for doing this method. Now with all that fun stuff getting out the way, I just want to give a special thanks out to the PlayStation 3 Exploit Dev Team and anybody who has helped with this exploit. Of course, if you do need any help, you could feel free to join my Discord. And with all that fun stuff getting started, we could go ahead and get started on the actual tutorial. So meet you guys for that process. Alrighty guys, so assuming that you did follow all of the prerequisites as stated in the intro, what we're going to do is go ahead and get started on the PC side of things first. So what I'm doing now is just going into the actual website where this is how the exploit fully works and all that stuff. We need to go ahead and download some files, and what we're going to be doing is using Hfw, not CFW but Hfw, and I do put a high emphasis because if you try to install custom firmware over your PlayStation 3 that's on 4.84, it may soft brick your system or brick your system. So that's why it's very important to follow along this guide and use Hfw. What we need to download first is V3 Han Tools. Scroll all the way down to where it says download release files, and then just go ahead and find it wherever you have it located on your PC. So if I go into open, it's probably in my downloads folder right here. So here is PS3 Tools Exploit. If you don't have basically WinRAR, I will have that in the link in the description below, so we can extract these files out. So what I'm going to do now is just minimize this real quick, and then I'm just going to go and drag out my PS3 Tools version 3.0 Han, and this is basically the exploit what we're going to be dragging over to our USB once we get to that step. But once we have that file showcased here, what we're going to do is go back into our web browser of choice. I would be using Google Chrome, but for some reason this website flags as like a unsupported site or whatever, and it's like it shows a big red screen or a virus. That's why I'm using just Internet Edge. I was about to call it Internet Explorer, but once you have all those steps done, you downloaded it from here. Where we're going to go to is V3 Han, or excuse me, not V3 Han Tools, but we're going to be going to this website right here, and this is the official release page on where we could download the 4.84.2 hybrid firmware, which is needed for this tutorial. I will have this in a link in the description below, of course, so you won't have to type in this big URL. But I do recommend that y'all guys read this if y'all guys are very new to the hacking or modding scene. So just make sure you read this over. I already know what I'm doing, so I'm not going to read it. But what we're going to do now is go ahead and go to this download link, which is a mega link, and go ahead and just click on that actual link. So let me scroll over again. I think it didn't click. Okay, so yeah, once you click on a link, you should basically get this mega upload link, and this will have the actual firmware itself. So I'm just gonna go ahead and download just like any normal file. Here is the Hfw firmware that is what we need for our PS3. It may take a little while for me to download, but I'm gonna go pause the video right here. But once that file is fully downloaded, I'll come back on to the PC. Alrighty guys, so assuming that your downloads has already been onto your PC and it's finished downloading, go ahead and drag them out to your desktop, and then we could go ahead and get started for this process. So you should have your PS3 update.pub, the Hfw or the hybrid firmware, and here is the PS3 tools that we downloaded from the PS3Xploit website. What we need to do now is just go ahead and plug in our USB drive of choice that we are using, and we need to make sure that it's on FAT32. So as showcased here is my USB drive that I'm using. It's labeled as Sony, and what we need to do is just right click over it and go into properties, and then where it says file system at, if your things doesn't state that it's on like exFAT, or if it's not on FAT32 and it states that it's on exFAT or NTFS, we need to go ahead and change that. Mind you, for this process, once we reformat our hard drive, or excuse me, our USB drive, we need to go ahead and, you know, protect any of our files if you do care about them. So for example, all of these files right here that I've used in the past before, I really don't care. This is just a throwaway USB drive, but if you do have important documents or files on your USB drive, it'd be a good idea right now to go ahead and back them up either onto your desktop or another USB flash drive, because anytime you reformat, and this just goes with anything dealing with hard drives and technology, anytime when a system asks you to format your thing, it's basically going to wipe your drive entirely clean and none of your files will be on there. But assuming that you guys got that step, what we need to do now is just right click over our USB drive of choice, make sure it is the right USB drive and not your PC's USB drives, and we need to go ahead and hit format. Once you're in the format slot right here, if your file system is on NTFS or exFAT, just go ahead and toggle to FAT32. Make sure your capacity is the highest for your USB drive. This is just an old 8GB USB drive I had for a long time right now, but make sure it's on the highest capacity. For your allocation unit size, I recommend going with 32 kilobytes just for this process. Your volume label, it doesn't matter what you label it as, I just name mine's Sony. And then make sure you have quick format toggled. Once you hit start, and then once you hit OK, it will erase all of your data as stated here on your drive. Just go ahead and click OK if you understand that. It basically is just going to wipe all your data clean and then transfer over or convert your system to FAT32. Once that is all done, it will basically state that your thing is been completed into formatting, and then you just hit OK. I'm going to minimize and open up my file system right now. Go into Sony, and as you see, none of my data is on here, but if we go right click over it in properties, you can still see that it's stated to FAT32. Now what we need to do is go ahead, I'm just going to drag this to the side so you guys can see side by side. I'm just going to go ahead and exit this out, and what we need to do is go into PS3 Tools v3, this folder right here, and what we need to do is go into Han support files 4.84.zip. I'm just going to go ahead and open it up with WinRAR, but you could just unzip the files right here. These 5 files right here, we need to put this onto the root of our USB. So let me just drag it to the side, and we could just drag and drop over to our USB or to the main part of our USB. Once it's on to the main part of our USB as well, we need to go into HTML. Excuse me, not into HTML, but we need to go ahead and exit out of this folder. And then we need to go into new folder right here and label this as PS3 in all capital letters, if I could type today. And then what we need to do is label this update. So let me type in update. And then what we need to do now is into this update folder, our Hfw or hybrid firmware, we need to go ahead and put it into this directory right now. So it should be in all capital letters, PS3 update, and now the actual PS3 update.pub file or the hybrid firmware, it needs to be basically transferred over to this section. So I'm going to let it do its thing for a little while right now. And then once it's fully done, I'll tell you guys on the next step on what we need to do. Alright guys, so assuming that your update is fully on to your PlayStation 3's USB drive, or I should say your USB drive, we need to go ahead and also rename it. So what we need to do is just go to rename and then take out all of the stuff from right here and name it as PS3Update.pub or updat.pub. So this is how it should officially be formatted. And what we're going to do right now is just basically check the contents of our USB drive. So as showcased here, here's the PS3 folder. Make sure it's capitalized and with update as well, and this is how the update should be as written, because if you had it as the original way, the PlayStation 3 is not going to recognize it as a PS3 update. As well, you have your files that we dragged and dropped from the Hfw folder. And what we need to do is one more thing that I did forget earlier in the video, which I forgot, is this website right here. We need to also download the Han Toolbox, and this is going to basically run Han, or it's basically the Han enabler for our PlayStation 3. So on the way on how to do this is just scroll all the way down to the website and go ahead and download the full version, and then it should basically pop up into your downloads folder. So what I'm gonna do is go find my downloads folder right here, and then I'm gonna find the actual PKG, if I could find it right now. I actually don't see it, so let me just open it up in another folder right here, and it basically should pop up. Okay, so here is the Han Toolbox that we need to go ahead and drag over. I'm just going to drag it to my desktop and then back into our USB of choice with all our files for this actual hack. We need to drag and drop the Han Toolbox into here. So this is what the final product should look like. Let me just move this over. You should have your 5 files. It should be PS3 update with the actual Hfw hybrid firmware that is renamed to PS3Update.pub, and here's the actual Han Toolbox. So once you have all of those files into one location, what we need to do is just minimize out of this, and then we need to go into our USB drive right here, right click and eject our USB of choice. Now what we need to do is go into our PlayStation 3, plug our USB drive to the rightmost port of your PS3. So basically plug it near the slot that is near your disk drive, not the left one, but the one that's nearest to your disk drive. So if you have a fat PlayStation 3 that is like the 60GB or the early 20GB model and doing this, and it has 4 USBs, do basically do from the USB that is to the 4th slot nearest to the USB, or basically not to your USB drive but to your Blu-ray drive. With all that fun stuff getting out the way, we could take our USB drive out of our PlayStation, or excuse me, our PC, put it in our PS3 and get started with the actual process at hand. Alrighty guys, so assuming that you did follow all of the steps for the PC, we could go ahead and get started on the PlayStation 3. So as showcased here, you see my PlayStation 3 on the screen. What we need to do now is take our USB our USB, and then plug it into the rightmost port on our PlayStation 3. So go ahead and do that, and what we need to do is go ahead and install the Hfw firmware. So what we need to do first, just for safekeeping, is just go to our network settings, go to disable, and then scroll all the way up and then go into system update and then update from storage media. If your PlayStation 3 sees your USB, of course, if it's formatted to FAT32, you should get this on the screen, 4.84.2 hybrid and exploitable firmware. Just go ahead and hit OK, and then it will basically install the hybrid firmware onto our PlayStation 3. So just go ahead and hit accept, and then go and make sure that you have your system to just hit start. Now what is going to happen is basically the Hfw is now installing right now, and I'm going to pause the video right here and then showcase on the next steps on what we need to do. Alright guys, so assuming that you did follow all of the steps and now you're on your hybrid firmware and it's successfully installed to your PlayStation 3, what we need to do now is go ahead and sign into our PlayStation network accounts. So go into your network settings, make sure your internet is enabled, of course, and now let's go ahead and sign in. What I do recommend for this part as well, to not have the sign in automatically option already toggled on, just go ahead and have it off and then just sign in to PSN as normal. So once your account is signed into PlayStation Network, what we need to do now is go ahead and go to account management right now, and we need to get our system activated. So we need to go into system activation, go into PS3 system, and go into game, activate system. And this is a very important step, so I make sure you do this step, because this is where those two files I was talking about in the intro, the act.dat and also the IDPS comes into play. Once you have that as well, what we're going to do is go to our internet browser, and then once our internet browser has fully loaded in as showcased here, what we need to do is go ahead and load a website. So I'm just waiting for the PS3 browser to do its thing. It's my first time using this PlayStation 3 since I just got it in today. But okay, once it's in basically to this part right now, we need to go ahead and manually type in the actual PS3Xploit address. So here, what you need to type in is PS3Xploit. Just going ahead and do this real quick since I don't have my keyboard on hand for the PS3. But once you type that in, what we need to do is go ahead and hit enter, and then go ahead and just hit yes on the screen. And this is the official page that we're going to be doing all of our work from. So it's just going to state some things on the screen right now. It says PS3 hen has been updated to version 2.3.1. do not under circumstances to enable FSM, so do not touch factory service mode if you're using hen. Since we're doing Han, this doesn't really required for our stuff, but in episode 2 I'll be talking more about FSM. But do not touch FSM or install CC API with hen. That's only for custom firmware. But go ahead, pause the video right here, read over that, and then just go ahead and hit OK. What we need to do first, before we even get started on the PS3 exploit side, we need to go ahead and set some options. So go ahead and hit triangle on your PlayStation 3 controller and go into tools. Once you're into tools, what we need to do right now is to go into homepage, and you want to set this as your current homepage. So use current and then hit OK. Once you also have that as well, you go ahead and hit triangle on your PS3 controller again, go into tools, scroll all the way down, and you want to go ahead and hit delete cookies. Go into tools again, scroll all the way down and delete our search history. I don't have anything on this PS3 since I just got it, but you still want to do these steps even if you're using your older PS3 or if it's a new one that you just got. And then you want to go into delete authentication information. So once you deleted the authentication information, your search history, and also your cache, and also the first option, what we need to do is go out back to home, or exit out of our internet browser by hitting circle and then hit yes. And the reason why we need to do this is due to the fact that we need to run this payload, or not, excuse me, payload, but this hack in the best environment so it could set up. Because if you had the cache and if you had a lot of search history in a web browser, it could take a while for the memory for that page to load up. Alright guys, so what we need to do as of right now is to go back into our internet browser as showcased here. So I'm just going to load up the internet browser. It should pop up on this page as before since we set it as our main page. So you won't see like the typical PlayStation 3 store page that PSN supports. But what we need to do now is just go ahead and scroll all the way down to V3 Tools. And we need to go ahead and click on ACK and IDPS dumper. These are the two files that I was speaking about very early in the tutorial, and these two files are basically the most important files for Han. This allows us to basically resign games and all of that fun stuff. So if you want to get the most out of your PlayStation 3 using this exploit, we have to do this. So assuming that you guys understand this part, you'll get this thing on the screen, or basically a little disclaimer saying, attention, your firmware version requires 4.84 hybrid firmware already to be installed. And since we already did that early in the video, we could just go ahead and hit OK. What we need to do now is just go ahead and hit L3 on your system controller, and then delete this page right here. So close this window, the PS3 exploit window, and then just have this page right here. Now what we need to do is make sure your USB is connected to the rightmost port of your PlayStation 3 system. And one thing I do want to state, if this method doesn't work for the first time, just reload this page once again, because it may take multiple tries. It's not like kind of a one-shot deal, because some people may have been running into issues in terms of dumping their ACT and IDPS files. But what we need to do right now is just to make sure you have auto close browser once this process is done. Unless you know what you're doing in terms of DeX mode, then don't mess with this, just leave it be. For newcomers, if you don't know what DeX is, then just don't mess with it. And for the dump path USB, make sure it's to USB 00, unless you already have USB 001 or USB 006. Let's say your USB port to the right of your system is damaged or something like that, and you had to, install it from another way. Just go ahead and find your USB of choice, and then you should be fine from here. What we need to do now is initialize ACT/IDPS dumper. And then as showcased here, it should be stating that exploit has been initialized. It may take multiple tries, but for the most part, it should work the first time. If it doesn't, just go ahead and restart your system. And then basically, what should happen, it should dump the two files, the act.dat, and also the IDPS to our USB. And once we get those two files, we're going to go ahead and extract that from our USB to our PC, and then we're going to label them so we can keep them safe, so you guys won't, lose them in any shape or form, because those two files are, like I stated before, is just for your console. They are specifically tied to your account, and also to your PS3's IDPS, or aka the console ID. Alright guys, so as shown here, it took me about 2 or 3 tries, and I did have to basically reload this page, but you can see that the Han and also ACT/IDPS files has been successfully dumped. What I need to do now is go to the second option here where it says dump the ACT.IDPS files to our USB. So right now it's just dumping the files, and then it will basically close the the browser. Once it's fully finished as showcased here, what we need to do is go ahead and take our USB out from our PlayStation 3, plug it in back to our PC, so we could keep those two files safe, and I could explain a little bit more about them and how we could set them up to our PlayStation, or excuse me, not to our PlayStation, but to our PC. So I'll meet you guys onto the PC. Alright guys, so assuming that you did follow all of the steps on the PlayStation 3, and now you have your USB that is plugged in from your PlayStation 3 to your PC as of right now, and have those two files dumped, what we need to do is just go ahead and open it up. So here is the USB drive, if you remember earlier, with all of our content, and it looks pretty messy, but successfully we got our act.dat file and also our idps.hex file. These two files are very, very important, so I do recommend, if you're going to keep this USB and just have it for your PlayStation 3 stuff, to keep these files on hand. But what I'm going to do now is just go ahead and create a new folder on my USB drive, and I'm going to label it as something important. So I'm just going to call it ACT IDPS PS3, and I'm just going to call it 4.84 hen. And this is where I'm going to just have my two files, basically the IDPS hex file right here, because this was going to allow us to resign our games and stuff like that. So once you have this in a safe place, I'm just going to have this onto my desktop right here, and I'm going to put this into my hard drive or upload it to the cloud or something. But once you have it in a safe place, which I do highly recommend, what we need to do is go back into our PlayStation 3 and get Han installed, and I'll showcase on the next steps on what to do. Alrighty guys, so assuming that you did get your files in a safe location on your PC, what we need to do now is re-plug in back in our PlayStation 3, our USB, and what we need to do is go into our internet browser. So let me go back to my internet browser as showcased here. And what we need to do is go back into V3 Han Tools, so V3 Han Tools, and we need to go into Han Installer. So once you into Han Installer, what you want to do is just hit OK. Go ahead and hit L3, hit left on your D-pad, and then just close out this window once again. Go ahead and hit initialize Han installer, So if you get this successfully, I had to do it a couple of tries, but what you want to do now is hit launch Han installer. What is going to happen now is basically it's going to reset our PlayStation 3 and then reboot it. That is totally normal. And then what we need to do after we do the installer, we need to do the actual enabler. Alright, so once your PlayStation 3 console has fully reset it, what we need to do is go back into the internet browser one more time for the final install. So here's me going back into the actual internet browser. You're going to get this typical thing right now, or the little disclaimer. What we need to do now is go into V3 Han tools, scroll all the way down to Han enabler since we already did the installer. So let me go ahead and do that. You're just going to get this little disclaimer stating once again that you need to be on hybrid firmware 4.85, or not 85, 4.84, and then go into initialize Han enabler, and then go into enable Han. And it may take a while for it to do this process right now, but hopefully it will go in the first try. If it doesn't, what we need to do is just go ahead and reset our web browser once again, or restart your PlayStation 3, and then everything should work out the second time. So I'm going to go ahead and pause the video right now. Alrighty, so hopefully y'all guys get the successful message as showcased here, or like I do on my PlayStation 3. What I need to do is back out of the internet web browser, or not yet actually. We need to go into enable Han. So once you enable Han once more, the internet browser will do it for itself. So once you have that, and if we go to our game section, we have finally successfully installed Han onto our PlayStation 3. Now if we go into package manager, go into install package files, go into standard, and go into Han Toolbox, it's going to basically allow us to install Han without doing it from the web browser. So here is Han Toolbox, and there's a bunch of tools from that section right here. So go into advanced tools. So if you don't know what you're doing in terms of like Dex, XMB, and all of that fun stuff, just leave out of it. But as showcased here, you can restart your console from there. Offline Han enabler, so it basically enables this offline, and also packages for licenses on KEX. Mind you, this is not Hen. Hen will allow more, such as in terms of multi-man and like homebrew of like that sort, and emulators. This will only work for just Han signed games and packages. So for Hen, you could run ISOs and stuff like that and backups. With Han, you need PKG files that are re-signed with your ACT IDPS, or your ACT file, and also your IDPS. But I'll show you case on how to basically run Han again if you were to restart your PlayStation 3. So what I'm gonna do is restart my PlayStation 3 right now, and then showcase on the steps you'll need to do if you had a Han PS3 game and you were needing to install a package file of your choice. Alrighty guys, this is purely for tutorial purposes, but assuming that you guys did restart your PlayStation 3 and now it's freshly rebooted back onto the XMB, I'm going to show you guys on how to run a Han Toolbox if you were to install another package file or something like that. So all you would have to do is go into Han Toolbox, either use the second option here, the offline Han enabler, or you could use the online option, which is Han functions right here. And then just go into this one and scroll all the way down to Han enabler, since we already installed Han. So this is Han installer, but here is also Han enabler as well. All you would need to do is just go ahead and run that as normal. And then once it's done, it'll boot you back out of the thing, and now you're able to install a package that is either Han signed or a homebrew that is compatible with Han. But essentially guys, this is episode 1, and the second episode that I'll be doing either tomorrow or Wednesday or whenever I put it out, I'm going to be showing you guys on how to install Hen. And Hen is better than Han because it allows you to do things such as PS3 ISO dumps. It allows you to play PlayStation 2 games, PS1 games, and emulators in terms of RetroArch, and allows you to install homebrew managers such as Multiman and all of that fun stuff. So I'm going to be doing that on either Wednesday or Thursday. I'm going to be probably dropping that video for episode 2 of this series. But hopefully you guys did successfully install Han onto your PlayStation 3s from this video. If you guys did enjoy this video or have any more questions, feel free to join my Discord in the link in the description below. But with all that fun stuff getting out the way, me. My name is Nagato's Revenge, and I hope you guys have an awesome day. I'm signing out. Peace.
Of course, I love the llamas.
Nice and silky smooth.